Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show, and this is Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It's now 6:02 p.m., and it is April 6th. I believe this is our first show of April, significantly enough. It's going to be a big month. Watch it, guys. It's going to be a big month. It's going to end with May 1st, which is kind of the subject matter of the show tonight. We have the Restrict Act and D-Day Ukraine. Now, before I get into this, because both of those things are really huge, and one of them, obviously, the Restrict Act, everybody should be up in arms protesting in the streets with pitchforks and torches over this Restrict Act, because it's going to be worse than Hitler, worse than Mao, worse than Stalin, all wrapped up in one big ball with no recourse. And it's coming, and it's bipartisan. So both of these fake parties are responsible. But before I get into that fun stuff and I talk about the big-ass World War III that's coming probably with the end of the month, maybe May 1st or just before, or the next couple of weeks probably, I want to point out something that just came to my attention. Somebody had asked me a few days ago in the chat, the group, our Telegram group, the Occupy the Getty / Stephen D. Kelley Telegram group. He said, Brad Pitt's selling his house. Why was Brad Pitt be selling his house? And I said, well, probably because he heard about us. And he knew that anybody that lived in a home with tunnel access would be a target. So he wanted to sell it. Well, that was my answer. But now I get a little message from somebody. They sent me a link to a story, and this is April 6th. Yeah, that's today. 4:44 p.m. updated. So this just came out by one Hannah Frischberg. Yeah. Let's see. What is the story? This is, what is it? Anyway. Well, here's the deal. Guess who bought Brad Pitt's house? The one with the tunnel. Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt's house, the one that we identified a long time ago in the video saying it was connected to Getty. No other than Aileen Getty. Okay. So, yeah, she's buying the house. It's going back to her. Remember, this is the same person that was involved in the property. What is it? The one that Jared Leto lives in. She was involved in that one too. But wow. But she's freshly been revealed as the buyer of the house. Wow. So anyway, this is really crazy. But yeah, this is the house with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie raised their 6 kids. This is the one that's the house is the one that's across the street from the what was it? The one that used to be the W.C. Fields house that turned into the Lily Tomlin house. And, anyway, all these houses have tunnel connections. So that's a big deal. But the thing is now, why is Aileen Getty getting these guys out of that house and taking it herself? Why does she need that house? We know there's a tunnel entrance to that house. So obviously this Getty girl is not stupid. She's part of it. She's one of them. She's completely one of them. And it's not a coincidence that she bought a damn house with a tunnel connection to the Getty. So that should be something that we should be running with. But why is she doing this now? Is it because we have impending doom on us? Like World War III, nuclear disaster, war with Russia, real live war with Russia, not proxy war like we have now? That's what's coming. That's what I predict. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about this Restrict Act. And the thing about this Restrict Act is you look at it and you can see that it paints everything as in very, very black and white. You're the enemy's side, which of course they say right there is Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela under Maduro. What's the other one? I don't know. They don't mention shit. We'll cover all that stuff, but all those bad guys. China, yeah, I can't forget China. It's amazing. We're actually planning to go into war with all of those countries at the same time. It really looks like that's what the plan is. But that's what this Restrict Act would appear to be, because if there's no reason for having it unless you are going to be in war. This is like a wartime communication restriction act to give anybody that violates it communicating with the enemy, 20 years in jail. I mean, if there's no war going on, it looks extremely draconian and Nazi, fascist to say the least. Whatever. I mean, basically, this is worse than what the Chinese have going on in China. And we're going to talk about it. Now, before I read the text of this bill, I want to just say real quick that, they're pointing this at TikTok. We're being told that this is a anti-TikTok thing. TikTok, of course, is twerking and what have you. But what's really important is that TikTok is one of the last platforms that Occupy the Getty has been able to use effectively with our short memes, with music and what have you, to inform people about our movement. And it's been very effective, and we've had a lot of growth. And we've taken excerpts from, things that I've said and put up there. A lot of people, I can't even keep up with everything that we've done, but all I know is that it's been effective, and the stuff that I've been seeing is very, very impressive. But I also know that even TikTok has been taking this stuff down. Now, if you were trying to do this on Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter now, you'd lose your account. They'd remove it. They'd shut you down. But this, of course, is a foreign government, the Chinese government, that's controlling this. So you would think that they would be the bad guys, that they would be gathering user data, which of course they're doing. But at the same time, they're allowing us to post stuff that the other American platforms don't. Well, here's the thing. This bill, you could say, was really intended to stop foreign adversaries from accessing sensitive user data of American citizens. That seems like a legitimate thing that we should be protected from. And I think originally when Trump was supposedly going after Twitter and there was all that talk about it, that was really the thinking. But this bill is coming across, this is Senate Bill 6686, is coming across as something like that, except that it's really worse. And we're going to have to go through it really quick. I'll try to go through the whole thing. I mean, I could just give you a synopsis, but since I've got it in front of me, some of the stuff, especially the things at the very end of it, are kind of scary. So let's see if we can make some quick work of this, and then we can talk about the World War III D-Day thing coming up. All right, so this bill is going to authorize the Secretary of Commerce to review and prohibit certain transactions between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries and for other purposes. So, of course, they define that when they talk about persons of the United States. They're talking about items that are owned by the United States, like, maritime law, citizens, natural persons, and persons who are not of the United States. But bottom line, foreign adversaries. So they're going to restrict transactions. In other words, they're going to stop foreign adversaries from providing services and data and access to information and whatever it is, these services such as TikTok. All right, so be it enacted by the Senate, House of Representatives, the bill of America, Congress assembled. This act may be cited as restricting the emergence of security threats that risk information and communication technology acts. So this is being seen as an emerging threat. Okay, so in this act, let's see, definitions. One, classified national security information. The term classified, I don't want to read these definitions, but this is related to classified security information. Any predecessor or successor order required protection against authorized disclosures marked to indicate such classified. Okay, controlled holding, covered holding. These are just terms and definitions. See what we can get to. That's good stuff. Covered transactions. Okay. The term covered transactions means a transaction in which an entity described in subparagraph D has any interest, including through an interest in a contract with a provision of technology or service in any other class of such transactions. Okay, that sounds pretty boring. Okay, so who are these entities? A foreign adversary, an entity subject to the jurisdiction of or organized under the laws of a foreign adversary, and an entity owned, directed, or controlled by a person described in subparagraph A or B. This could be Telegram. C, non-evasion. The term covered transaction includes any other transaction in the structure of which is designed to intend to evade or circumvent the application of this act. So if you, and that's basically a VPN. You're trying to get around any access to your ISP, or basically anything that's going to protect you from them snooping in your computer is evasion. And is subject to the regulatory regulations prescribed by the secretary. In other words, whatever the secretary says, whoever this unnamed person that we have not got yet that's going to be working for the Commerce Department is going to be the secretary, and they're going to set up a complete bureaucracy under them. Wait till you hear about the funding for this bureaucracy that's coming. It's wonderful. Let's see. Timing. Current, past, or potential future. Wait a minute. This includes a current, past, or potential future transaction. This is retroactive. This covers anything you've already done, what you're doing now, and something they think you might do. You might do potential future transactions. They think you might do something, then you're covered. All right, critical infrastructure. Let's see, what is this? Meeting has the meaning given to the term of section of the USA Patriot Act. Oh, okay, so they're using language from the Patriot Act, which is pretty evil in itself. It's just amazing that it's still there. All right, what does it cover? It covers a firm, a government agency, a labor union, a fraternal social organization, a partnership, trust, joint venture, corporation, a group, subgroup, other association or organization, whether or not organized for profit. That's us, people. Okay? That's us. Executive department and agency. The term executive department and agency has a meaning given to them. Executive agency. Let's see. Foreign adversary. The term foreign adversary, meaning any foreign government or regime determined by the secretary pursuant to sections 3 and 5 to have engaged in a long-term pattern of serious instances of conduct significantly adverse to the national security of the United States or security or safety of United States persons. And this includes, unless removed by the Secretary pursuant to Section 6, the People's Republic of China, including Hong Kong, Macau, special regions, the Republic of Cuba, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Democratic North Korea, the Russian Federation, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela under the regime of Maduro. What else? Holding, stock, security, share, partnership, interest. Covered holding entity, owns, controls, manages, has not more than a million United States. Okay, let's kind of get to something better here. Let's see. Relevant executive department and agency heads. Okay. All right, here's a good one. Person. Okay, here's the definition of a person. Now, basically, this means who this applies to. This means a person means a natural person, including citizens of the United States of America and or any foreign country. So basically what they're saying, if you're a citizen of the United States, you're not a natural person. Let's see, what do we have here? We got the terms relatively executive departments. We got the Treasury, the State Department, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, Homeland Security, Trade Representative, National Intelligence, General Services, Federal Communications Commission, heads of other executive departments and agencies as appropriate. So in other words, everybody as appropriate. This applies to everybody. Relevant committees of Congress. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see, addressing information that pose an undue or unacceptable risk. Let's see. Well, the secretary, in consultation with relevant executive department and agency heads, is authorized to and shall take action to identify, deter, disrupt, prevent, prohibit, investigate, or otherwise mitigate, including by negotiating, entering into, or imposing and enforcing any mitigation measure to address any risk arising from any covered transaction by any person with or respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States that the Secretary determines. Okay, what poses an undue, unacceptable risk? All right, let's see, this should be obvious, right? Sabotage or subversion of the design, integrity, manufacturing, production, distribution, installation, operation, maintenance of information and communication technology products and services in the United States. In other words, if you do anything to make it so that people can get around this crap, that's unacceptable. Let's see. Catastrophic effects of the security or resilience of critical infrastructure of the United States or digital economy. Okay, obviously that would be like hacking. Interfering in, altering the result or reported results of the federal election. There's that. Oh, there's altering the federal election. You know that. There's that Russia thing. As determined in coordination with the Attorney General, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Secretary of Treasury Federal. So yeah, obviously they want to go after Russia for, Donald Trump nonsense. Okay, what else we got here? Coercive or criminal activities. Remember, this is sponsored by Mitt Romney, one of the guys. Coercive or criminal activities by a foreign adversary that are designed to undermine democratic processes. There you go again. And institutions, or steer policy and regulatory decisions in favor of strategic objectives. Wait a minute, isn't this what George Soros does in all these other countries? But if you try to do it here, let me see. To the detriment of national security of the United States, as determined in coordination of the Attorney General, Director of National Intelligence, Secretary of Treasury, Federal Election Commission. Okay, what else? Or otherwise poses an undue or unacceptable risk to national security of the United States or the safety of United States persons. That could be us again. This is long here, so I want to get to the good stuff for you if I can, because you can read it yourself. You just got to pull it up on there. Not like it matters, but there it is. Let's see. Review and referral. These are one of the good things. If you look at the processes of trying to review what's going on, they basically make it so that they're immune to any they can stop any review they want, and they're immune to any kind of prosecution. You just can't do it. Let's see if I can get addressing information and communication technology servicings that pose an undue or acceptable risk. Oh, that looks pretty boring. Let's see. All right, considerations. So see, these are the areas that they're working with, and these are the things that they're going to be paying attention to, and they are information and communications technology, products or services used by a party to cover a transaction, kind of like PayPal, or critical infrastructure relating to critical, software, hardware, any product or service integral to the telecommunications product or service, including wireless local area networks, mobile networks, satellite payloads, satellite operations, cable access points, wireline access points, core networking, long, short, backhaul networks, edge computer platforms. Let's see, what else? Any software, hardware, any related product, integral service, hosting, computing, uses, process, routine, expected use. All right, these are your servers, of course. Internet hosting services, cloud-based or distributed computing data storage, machine learning, managed services, and content delivery services. Content delivery services. I'm trying to cover everything. Let's see what else we got. Internet or network-enabled sensors, webcams, endpoint surveillance, monitoring devices, modems, home networking devices, if greater than something units have been sold to persons in the United States at any point during the year. Unmanned vehicles, including drones, aerial systems, autonomous, semi-autonomous vehicles. Oh, boy. You fuck with drones or make a little robot car. They're covering everything in this. Software designed or used primarily for connecting with or communicating via the internet. Desktop applications, mobile applications, gaming applications, payment applications, web-based applications, information and communication technology, artificial intelligence, quantum key distribution, quantum communications, quantum computing, post-quantum cryptography. Do you realize, guys, quantum doesn't even exist? We're talking 4D. We're talking scalar here. Okay, we're talking technology that they technically don't even have yet, but it's written into these laws. Autonomous systems, advanced robotics, biotechnology, synthetic biology, computational biology. People, do you realize what that means? That's your COVID. That's the technology that goes into creating these CRISPR DNA manipulations, these that seem to be all the rage right now. Hell, in China, I hear right now they're taking DNA from, what do they call those things? Water bears, anyway. Supposedly these things are immune to radiation. They're basically involved. They're messing with Chinese DNA. They're making people that can basically live through a nuclear bomb at war. Why would they be doing that? Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. All right. E-commerce. Let's see. Shell. Considerations relating to the undue and acceptable risks. I don't want to look at that. Designation of foreign adversaries. Oh, geez. Let's see. Resolution of disapproval of designation or removal of designation of foreign adversaries. I'm not a foreign adversary yet. I'm not going to read that. Reporting and discharge, proceeding, consideration. Let's see. Committee referral, reporting and debate, vote on passage. Wow. Senate's got to basically take you off the list. Let's see. Joint resolution, implementing authorities. Let's see. Regulations. In carrying out the responsibilities under this act, the Secretary may establish such rules, regulations, and procedures as the Secretary considers appropriate. Okay? All right. You understand what this means? Okay, this is not the first time there's language in this bill that basically says they can do whatever they want. But here's a good one. There's probably others that I've already missed. But right here, it says, as far as these regulations is considered, the Secretary may establish, in other words, create rules. Remember, this is a rule-based thing. And what is that? That's no-hide law. Regulations and procedure as the Secretary considers appropriate, at his whim. No debate. This is not a guy that we elected. Let's see if we can move on. Other authorities. In general, the Secretary may issue guidance, including advisory opinions, and establish procedures to carry out this act. In other words, he's going to become a czar over the other agencies. He's going to be able to advise them on what to do and what not to do. Let's see. Additional authority. The Secretary may undertake any other action as necessary to carry out the responsibilities under this act that is not otherwise prohibited by law. In other words, if they can make you think that they want to do something that's not constitutionally prohibited, they're going to do it as they want. Basically, they're going to make anything they do legal here. So as the law applies, it's not going to matter because this is the law. That's what this is. Let's see, authority. What can the Secretary do? He can require information reports required to be submitted under, let's see, subsection, including any documents related to any act. Conduct investigations, hold hearings, administer oaths, examine witnesses, receive evidence, take depositions, require by subpoena the attendance and testimony of a witness, and the production of any documents related to the transaction or holding any review investigation, regardless of whether any report has been acquired or filed in connection therewith, including through another person or agency. In other words, they don't have to file separate. Usually, when you file a subpoena for a person, if you want documents, you have to file a separate subpoena called a subpoena ducis tecum. This basically says that it's all at once. Let's see. Format. Any person producing any document, the Secretary pursuant to the section shall produce a document in a format usable to the Department of Commerce. Let's see, whatever that means. Let's see. What else? Disclosure. Enforcement. Oh, here, let's get into enforcement. That's a good one. Let's see. In general, the president shall rely on, including by delegation of the secretary and heads of other federal agencies as appropriate, to conduct investigations of violations of any authorization, order, mitigation measure, regulation, or prohibitions issued under this act. In conducting the investigations described by the paragraph, designated officers and employees of federal agencies described in the paragraph may, to the extent necessary, appropriate to enforce this act and exercise such authority as is conferred upon them by any other federal law, subject to the policies, and procedures approved by the Attorney General. In other words, they can basically use any law enforcement agency to carry this stuff out. Let's see, permitted activities. Permitted activities of officers and employees of agencies authorized to conduct investigation under subsection A may inspect, search, detain, seize, impose temporary denial orders with respect to items in any form or conveyance on which it is believed that these items have been or are being used about or being imported into the United States in violation of this act or any other applicable federal law. Require inspector obtain books, records of any other information from any person subject to the provisions of this act or any applicable federal law. Administer oaths or affirmations and by subpoena require any person to appear and testify or to appear and produce books, records, and other writings, or both, and obtain court orders to issue a legal process to the extent authorized under chapters 19, 112, 126 of the United States Code, and any other applicable federal laws. Enforcement of subpoenas, actions by the federal attorney, penalties. Let's see. It shall be unlawful for persons to violate, attempt to violate, conspire to violate, or cause a violation of any regulation, order, direction, mitigation measure, prohibition, or other authorization of directive issued under this act, including any of the unlawful acts described in the paragraph. Unlawful acts described in this paragraph are as following. I don't really want to go through all this, but let's see. It's pretty thick. No person may engage in any conduct prohibited or contrary or refrain from engaging in any contract required by any regulation under. Boy, this is all right. First of all, let me just. This is kind of the really gives you the flavor of what's going on here. No person may engage in any conduct prohibited by or contrary to or refrain from engaging in any conduct required by any regulation, order, direction, mitigation measure, prohibition, or any authorization or directive under this act. In other words, you're fucked. You got to do what they say no matter what. And you have to, and if they tell you to do something, you better do it. And they tell you not to do something, you better not do it. There's absolutely nothing that you have that you can say about it. Let's see. No person may cause, aid, or abet, counsel, command, induce, procure, permit, or approve the doing of any act prohibited by the omission of any act required by any. In other words, this is your family. They're going to take your family and anybody you talk to. Order, regulation, mitigation, blah, blah, blah. No person may solicit or attempt a violation of any regulation. In other words, if you go out there and say, hey, we can get around this, but if you do this and that, that's soliciting or attempting a violation of any regulation, order, direction, mitigation, measure, etc. You may not conspire or act in concert with one or more persons of any manner or for any purpose to bring about or do any act that constitutes a violation of any regulation. That's us again, people. Regulation, order, to blah, blah, blah. No person may, whether directly or indirectly through any other person, make false or misleading representation, statement, or certification, or falsify or conceal any material fact to the Department of Commerce or any official or any executive department or agency. Wow. Wow. Now, I've been telling you guys that we're going to start using sarcasm as a tool here. When they tell you when you can't use the truth, we'll start using sarcasm. It sounds to me like they're going to make sarcasm illegal too. In the course of an investigation or other action of this act, any regulation, order, direction, mitigation, measure, prohibition, or other authorization, declarations are under, or preparation, issuance. Let's see. No person may engage in any transaction or take any action with intent to evade provisions of this act or any regulation. No person may fail or refuse to comply with any reporting or record-keeping requirement of this act. In other words, if they tell you to who if you're manufacturing something, they tell you to install a back door, and they want to know who has what device, you better provide that information. Let's see, additional requirements. Let me see if I can get to some good stuff here. Let's see. It gets pretty bad. Civil penalties. The Secretary may impose the following civil penalties on a person for each violation by that person of an act or any regulation, order, direction, mitigation, measure, prohibition. In other words, there's so many of these potential violations that you could get hit with quite a few for the simplest thing. But let's see, what do they say? Now remember, these civil penalties apply to each violation. A fine of not more than $250,000 or an amount that is twice the value of the transaction, that is the basis of the violation with respect to which the penalty is imposed, whichever is greater. In other words, if you do something that's nothing, it's going to be minimum $250,000, if not more than that. Let's see, the revocation of any mitigation or measure of authorization issued under the act to the person. Okay, criminal penalties. Oh, here's a good part. Now, a person who willfully commits, willfully attempts to commit, or willfully conspires to commit, or aids or abets to the commission of an unlawful act described shall, upon conviction, be fined not more than $1 million, or if a natural person, be imprisoned for not more than 20 years or both. Now, they also have civil forfeiture. And forfeiture, in general, any property, real or personal, tangible or intangible, used or intended to be used in the manner to commit or facilitate a violation or attempt a violation described in paragraph, shall be subject to forfeiture to the United States. And you know that money goes right into building bunkers. Let's see, what do they say? Also, property, real and personal, tangible and intangible, constituting traceable to the gross proceeds taken, obtained to retained in connection with the result of the violation, or attempted or subject to forfeiture. Let's see, procedure. Seizures and forfeitures under this subsection shall be governed by the provisions 46, blah, 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 United States Code for civil forfeitures. Okay, we know about that. It goes on about forfeiture. Judicial review. Okay, now here's the thing about this judicial review is, remember, this is all classified information. So it's subject to all the procedures associated with classified information. So, let me see if I have to really read this, because just looking at this thing is really violating my eyes. We're already 36 minutes into this. All right, basically, if you have a problem with anything they do and you want a review of this information, I'm going to kind of cut through this and make it sort of quick. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. And when you do this, you're not going to be able to actually have any evidence, you're not going to have any rights, and you're not going to be able to access any of the information. Now, if I skip down to this stuff here, I could get to, well, basically, let's just say if you are able to actually get them to allow information to be provided, such as something that they were able to steal from you via surveillance that they're using to put you in jail, the information won't be available to you. You won't be able to look at it. What you will be able to do is go into a room that is secured, a top secret room, and basically it is made so that you can't record anything that you see, and et cetera, et cetera. And they will show you via monitor information that you're asking for, supposedly from a different location. So you'll never be closer to the information than a monitor. And this is basically how they handle stuff that's considered national security. So And to cut to the chase, there's no FOIA. There's no freedom of information. Let me see if I can find you the exact information. But if you try to file a Freedom of Information Act, this stuff is completely not part of it. You can't access any of this information. Let's see. I'll try to give you the exact information. Any information submitted severability. Huh. Well, here, I'll tell you. Here's probably one of the most telling things of all. I mean, you can't get access to any information. It's all arbitrary. They can decide anything is wrong. They don't have to provide you with any excuse. Oh, here we go. Before I get to that, inapplicability of FOIA. Now, if you don't know what FOIA is, that's Freedom of Information. So any information submitted to the federal government by a party to a covered transaction in accordance with this act, as well as any information the federal government may create relating to review of the covered transaction, is exempt from disclosure under Section 552 of Title V United States Code, commonly referred to as the Freedom of Information Act. So right away, how that is even possible is fucking insane. And how people could allow such a thing, bipartisan, it's fucking insane. To have something like this, so draconian, with completely non-transparency, not even able to be ever accessed via Freedom of Information Act, completely writes it out. Now, let's see what else it held. The last section 16, if any provision of this act or the application of such provisions to any person or the circumstances held to be invalid, the remainder of this act and the application of the remaining provisions of this act to any person or circumstance shall not be affected. So if someday down the line the Supreme Court says they did something wrong, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get out of jail because they'll find something else to charge you with that goes around that. And then in Section 17, the very final part of this act should really scare the shit out of everybody. And this is a really simple sentence. It's not a paragraph like the other sections. There are authorized to be appropriated such sums as may be necessary to carry out this act. So it's carte blanche. It's a open bank. They're authorized to get as much money as they deem necessary to do what they want. It's the most heinous group ever put together under the pretense of the Department of Commerce, not the National Security, not the CIA, but the Department of Commerce. Idiots think that that's not important, but it's become the most draconian, big brother, evil agency. Now, again, why would they do this if we're not at war with these countries? Why would they do that? Well, in a nutshell, Bakhmut is getting ready to fall. There's only a tiny section of the western part of the city that's getting ready to fall. And if that happens, Russia will, for all intents and purposes, control all of the Donbass, including Crimea and Zaporozhye and Kherson. Now, this promised spring offensive that everybody's talking about that they're supposedly going to unleash with this new equipment is going to happen any day, supposedly. Now, I suspect what's really going to happen, because on the surface, if you look at it, they think they're going to come in from the top of the country, from the northern part of the Donbass, and sweep down and cut the Russian forces in half and set up a assault on Crimea, go all the way down to Crimea with this offensive. Now, of course, this is insane because they can't fight their way out of anything, and they certainly don't have the hardware, let alone the ammunition or the manpower. So how would they going to actually do this? Well, I suspect NATO's going to enter the war. There's going to be a big D-Day, and it's going to start with Poland because the United States has stationed incredible amounts of hardware in Poland, and this is going to be brought into the act, And we will probably see the United States sail aircraft carriers into the Black Sea and launch air attacks on Crimea, etc., and support this invasion because they have no air for it. Now, needless to say, this is going to be a complete disaster, and you can't possibly start a war with the United States, or not the United States, but Russia. But it's not just Russia. Again, it's going to be Russia, Iran, China, Venezuela, and on and on and on and on. Cuba, whoever, North Korea. This is not a smart thing. It's a little suicidal. It's genocidal. We know the United States can't possibly do such a thing. We know they're not set up. I can't imagine even shipping the personnel over there and having that ready to go. But I know one thing is for sure. They need NATO personnel to drive these tanks, especially any air assets that are going to be brought in. But like I said, anything they do is going to be a failure. And we're going to see an escalation. It's going to happen really quick. And I think they're going to pop this on us with no real vote. I think we're going to see, again, Poland declare some sort of something or instance and get involved in this so-called spring offensive. And being a NATO member, that will compel the other NATO nations to become involved. And any attack on Russian territory by NATO is going to make us eligible for an attack by Russia. So this is a very ugly time. But again, I think that everything that's happening right now, not the least of which is this act here, this restriction, this, whatever they call it, the Restrict Act. I think this is completely anti-Getty. I think they know that it's only a matter of time before we go full-on mainstream media, and they have to tighten down any controls that they have, and they need to come up with extremely heinous, draconian punishments to try to scare anybody that would be involved in this stuff. And they've gone full Nazi. They've shown their face. But if this were a peaceful country, if we were at peace, this would be a little bit difficult to justify. And it's not gone into effect just yet. But what if it goes into effect immediately after full-scale World War breaks out in Ukraine, with NATO and American forces actually fighting and trying their hardest to kill Russian troops? Even if they do start an offensive and it's successful enough to actually achieve the objective of reaching to Crimea, I don't see how the United States, or any country for that matter, a coalition of countries, expects to do battle with a country as large as Russia that's been conducting a wartime economy for the last 60, 70 years. So these are not good times. I don't really want to stress on that. I think I'm going to make this show relatively short. I don't think I'm going to take a break, but I'll just say that I'm already frustrated, because I'm frustrated with the restrictions and the barriers and the censorship and everything we've got to go through to get this message out there. My next interview, which I hope will be worthwhile with the guys over there at Skeptic, is May 2nd. But that's probably after whatever is going to happen is going to happen. We've got all kinds of planetary, astronomical activity going on. And of course, May 1st is Beltane. It's the beginning of a massive satanic ritual involving sacrifice. And this period up to Beltane is also filled with sacrifice. So the handwriting is on the wall. I know that even if I were to take these things separately and look at just the Restrict Act, I know that it would be bad for us, but we can take some comfort in knowing that we caused them to do this thing, and we can find a way around it. We can find a way that doesn't violate their restrictions, and hopefully it'll be impossible for them to enforce, although I think this is what they think they're going to do. They're going to fill up FEMA camps with people that use VPNs to access their Twitter or their TikToks. That's actually what it looks like. But the war thing is pretty serious, and of course there's no talk about this, but they're calling it a D-Day. And even if it was only the Ukrainians doing this, which I really seriously doubt, they're going to lose. And the NATO and the European community, the European Union, can't afford to lose this investment and this. They can't afford to fail at this project Ukraine. So economies are going to take a dump. And the United States dollar right now, a depolarization is taking place in the world. And these countries, major countries such as Brazil and China, they now transact all their transactions in their domestic currencies. Dollars are being phased out. This is going to remove all power of trade embargo that the United States has been trying to wield for so long. So these are not good times. And of course, because of what's going on in Ukraine, the horrible crimes committed by these Nazis, and the very fact that this is not a Biden thing, this is not an Obama thing, this has been going on since World War II. Every administration, Republican as well as Democrat, has been involved in this. The Reagan administration was extremely involved in setting up, in its infancy, Project Ukraine. Hell, the president that was deposed here was married to a CIA honeypot. I mean, we've been involved in that country forever, basically nurturing these Nazis. Why would we do that if we weren't Nazis? Because we are Nazis. People say, well, Jews, yada, yada. Yes, Zionism, Nazis, the same thing. It doesn't matter. One side of the country's Nazi, the other side is Zionist. It's still the same people. And only Occupy the Getty can end this. And ultimately, that's all we've got left. So if we survive the next few weeks, then we'll have to find new ways of getting around this stuff, God willing. Otherwise, like I've been telling you to work harder every day, maybe you could come up with some magic act that's going to make our message and our mission resonate with a lot of people really quick, and we can shut all of this down. But I can't stress enough, and this is a huge amount of weight that's basically coming down on us right now, and I just hope you guys understand the severity of this, of what's happening, the gravity of what's happening. This is huge. It's not just one thing. There's two big, huge things designed to happen at the same time and bring about not a very happy future. All right. Obviously, like they said here in this thing, PayPal and all these things that transact money. If you send money, I guess they're going to go after that. They're going to make sure you can't send me any money. But if you do want to send me some money to help me out, you need to use the PayPal. And of course, that's Stephen Kelley, 714@yahoo.com. And I apologize to those people that struggled with it. But yeah, you got to use that email. And of course, you got to find a button where it says friend or family, because otherwise it's just not going to go through. It's going to get sent back to you. Okay. I'm sorry. What else? Also, my email, and it's really super important right now that my email gets out there to everybody, because it's going to come soon, hopefully not that soon, that the email is going to be the only thing I have, but they're gunning for that too. And my email is lost17gun@aol.com. Okay, the other one is strictly for PayPal, but if you want to talk to me and communicate, set up an interview, get a copy of the book, get healing, whatever, learn how to be a Jedi, you got to use that email. Okay. All right. I apologize for cutting it short, but again, thank you so much. And also, you got to join the Telegram group if you haven't done that yet. It's really extremely important until they take that away, because that is all we have. And you got to get Telegram on your device. You got to join the group. You got to stay in the group. And the group, of course, is Occupy the Getty, one word, /Stephen D. Kelley. All right. So please do that, and that's a great way to communicate. You can say, hey, I heard your show. I want to help out, that kind of thing. We love to hear. We love that stuff. And if it looks like the page is boring, it's because it's for my content. I'm just not putting out enough content, and I don't really allow content from the outside, because if it's not Occupy the Getty, it's not important, especially now. All right? Remember, they wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if it wasn't for us being successful. So what more can I say? All right, everybody. I do want to thank those of you that have tuned in or live, and I do want to thank you if you're listening to this on Brighton or any of these other formats that it's getting spread around to. And I hope that you will also take it upon yourself to create your own content device, since they're shutting us down at left and right. I need you guys to be faster. I need this stuff to spread faster and new sites to pop up, new YouTubes, whatever, new Twitters, new Instagrams. Assume they'll be taken down, but if you can keep putting them up, you're going to reach enough people before something happens and they catch up to you. So hopefully there's more of us than them. And if you don't do anything now, you can't come back later when things get really awful and act like you're surprised. All right, it's like you've been warned. I mean, you've been warned for a long time, but now it's in your face. And remember, these guys are going to have unlimited money. They're going to be able to write laws as they want. They're going to be able to do this all in secret. They're going to not be elected. Can it get any more Nazi? I don't know. Anyway, once again, thank you for listening. And my name is Stephen D. Kelley. And this is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. And we are Truth Cat Radio, the one and only. Hopefully will last for a long time, but we are www.truthcatradio.com. Maybe that's all we'll have pretty soon, huh? Anyway, with that, I want to say good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.